The analysis phase of the ADDIE model is the foundation for any instructional design project. This is your opportunity to analyze your learners, the needs of the project, the task, the context, and the learning goal. By the end of this presentation, you will be able to understand and identify the different components of the analysis phase and what should be included in your analysis document that is part of your thematic unit assignment. The topics you are required to analyze and report on in your document are learning goals, needs analysis, learner analysis, task analysis, and context for instruction. So let's begin with the learning goal. Learning goals are general statements about what is included in a course or unit. Learning goals are different than objectives. Objectives are specific and describe what the student will learn and how you, the teacher, will know that the objectives were met. The learning goal and what is needed for this document should be a general statement about what the unit will be about. For this class, you are required to create a 5 to 6 lesson thematic unit that teaches the common core concepts for your grade level in math, language arts, science, and social studies. And yes, even if you are a music teacher, a PE teacher, you are required to integrate those 4 content areas. The only exception we're going to make for this assignment is if you are an achievement coach or an assistant principal or a specialist in a different department. You can create your unit on something, a topic that you would actually be training teachers on or other colleagues in your area. We want to make sure whatever you're creating is actually something that you're going to be able to take back and use in everyday life, or at least your school life. So let's look at 2 examples of learning goals. Students will explain and understand the order of events leading up to the American Revolution. The curriculum areas that will be integrated in this unit are social studies, math, language arts, and science. The learning goals for this unit consist of students being able to understand, demonstrate, and visualize the changes that occur on the Earth's surface through the forces of change, which cause weathering and erosion. The 4 curriculum areas that will be integrated are science, social studies, math, and language arts. So you'll notice that both of these examples, the learning goals, are just a general statement of the thematic unit. They also included a sentence about what curriculum areas will be integrated into the unit. That part really isn't necessary, but the teachers added it just to fulfill the assignment. If you don't include that sentence about what curriculum areas will be integrated, that's okay. You're more than welcome to. If you don't include it, you're not going to get marked down for it. The next step in the analysis phase is to complete a needs analysis. So you need to identify what is the need or problem, what does the core curriculum say, what do your students already know, what don't they know, is there a need for instruction? In order to complete the needs analysis, you can and should refer to the core curriculum. You can have your students fill out a KWL chart, find out what they already know, what they want to know. You can then use that KWL chart later on in the ADDIE model when you're actually going through the evaluation phase and find out how did it go. You can also have your students complete a pre-test and then use those results to help determine the need of your students. So let's look at 2 examples, and I'll admit one is a lot better than the other, and we'll talk about why. So first example, students are often required to write essays without truly understand what constitutes a well-structured essay. With the goal and demand for students to be career and college ready, it is vital that each student can write a fluent and structured paper. Using the information and pre-assessments of Hobbit Book Report, My Access prompts, Smile Sheet questionnaire, and class discussions, I have found that 6 of 29 students know how to structure an essay. Students have shown that they do not have an understanding of introduction paragraphs, body paragraphs with topic sentences, and concluding paragraphs. I like with this example that this teacher told me what pre-assessments were given, and as a result, he identified what the needs of his students were. So as he starts developing and designing his thematic unit, this is going to help him in that process. The next example, I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to read it at all. I'll let you look through it. But if you are familiar with Utah State Core, like how it's written, how it's worded, I think you might be able to notice that this was just copied and pasted from the core curriculum. Now with your needs analysis, I'm actually okay with you doing that because this is telling me and identifying the need. It's telling you what you need to teach and what your students need to know about particular topics in your core. However, I don't know the need of the students. I don't know what the students know, what they don't know. One part I left out in this example is the teacher said, I'm going to give a pre-test to identify the needs of my kids and find out what they don't know. However, I don't want to hear that you're going to give a pre-test. I want you to actually do it and then tell me the results and what you learned as a result of that pre-assessment. Once the need analysis is done, you then need to analyze your learners. So complete a learner analysis. Never assume that you know who your learners are or what their learning styles are. You actually might be surprised at what you discover. In your learner analysis, you need to identify the demographics, the attitudes, values, and opinions, access to technology, and the schedules. So with demographics, what are your learners' ages, gender, ethnicity, culture, income, location, and even education? With the attitudes, how do they feel about the content area? How do they feel about school? What are their learning styles? How do they like to learn? What access to technology do they have? Do they have technology at home, at school? Because if you're planning to use technology in your unit, will it be possible if they can't use technology when they're in the classroom or even at home? And then schedules, what does the student attendance look like? Do your students have to leave the classroom? Do you have kids coming and going? It's helping you just identify the kids in your class. And once again, don't assume. You can collect all this data by using Data Dashboard. If you are not familiar with Data Dashboard, contact your ed tech and they can work through it with you. It's an awesome resource to get information for students in our district. You can also create a survey either on paper or online, whichever is the most comfortable for you. I mean, why not ask students the questions that you're wanting the answers to? So let's look at an example. I'm not going to read it word for word because you can actually pause this at any time and read it. But this teacher, you're going to notice that she divided her learner analysis into the little subgroups of what I'm asking for. So here's her section on demographics, and she talks about the demographics of her classroom. You'll notice that she's reporting everything in percentages, and that's great. If using the actual numbers is better for you, great. I just want to make sure the information in this analysis is for you. So what's the best way for you to look and use this data? So here are her demographics. The next section, the attitudes, values, and opinions. So she found that 93% of the students report that they enjoy school. Some of her students prefer math and sciences to the language arts. 96% of the students prefer working in groups or pairs rather than working alone. So, like I said, this section identifying the different attitudes, values, and opinions of her kids. Next section, access to technology. So what kind of technology do they have access to? And schedules. So one thing you'll notice in here, in her schedule she included how long math is taught, and she has 30 minutes of intervention groups, and that this unit will take 13 core instruction days. In the previous sections, I believe it was the demographics where she mentioned it, she talked about some of the students' schedules. As I'm reading through your learner analysis, as long as I can identify the schedules, if you don't have it divided into groups like this, that's fine. When I'm reading through it, I just want to make sure I can identify what it is we're asking you to report on. So even though she didn't have the student schedules in the schedule section, she had mentioned it in other places, so she still got full credit for it. Something else you also need to include in your learner analysis is learner skills. This is helping you identify your high, medium, low kids. She got most of this information from AimsWeb, from the MComp, MCAP scores. So for those of you using MComp, MCAP, SRI, MyAccess, Utah Right, use that data for the learner skills. And I think we can all agree you want to make sure you know who your high, medium, and low kids are so you can make sure you're reaching all of your students. So after you've done your learner analysis, the next step is to complete a task analysis. And I'm going to be honest, the task analysis tends to be the hardest part of this whole analysis process because it really makes you look at the tasks for your unit, and then you have to break it down into subtasks or sub-skills. So the task analysis is a breakdown of exactly what skills need to be mastered in order for students to meet the learning goal and objectives. The task analysis will start with the task and then be broken down into subtasks. The task analysis can be created as a web, a table, or an outline. You choose the option you like best. I'm going to show you an example of a task analysis presented in two different ways. So the first thing I recommend doing with task analysis, look at the core curriculum. The core curriculum actually does a great job of completing a task analysis for you. However, I don't want you just to copy and paste the core curriculum. I want you to dive deeper. I want you to identify every task that your kids, as much as you can, that your kids need to know for your unit. So I started with the core curriculum on chemical and physical changes in matter. This is the 5th grade core. And then I just broke them down a little bit more. I didn't have to break it down too much because the core actually did a great job for me. But it does help me just look at what it is I need to teach and make sure my kids understand about physical and chemical changes. You'll notice that mine is color-coded. In no way do I expect you guys to actually color code your task analysis. I just did this for training purposes. So you'll notice at the very top I start with understand that chemical and physical changes occur in matter. That's my main task. So another task that they need to know how to do, define vocabulary terms. What terms do they need to know? I listed all of them underneath. Next task, understand, identify, and demonstrate what a physical change is. They need to identify physical properties of matter, and here are the properties that I need to make sure I cover in my unit. Identify indicators of physical changes. Here's the indicators, and then here are the phases of matter that I need to make sure I cover. So I'm not going to go through each section. I'll actually pause and let you look through this. But I hope you can see that nowhere in here am I saying how I'm going to teach these topics or skills or tasks. I'm just listing the tasks the kids need to be able to do. I'm trying to identify as much as possible that I need to make sure by the end of my unit, my kids know all of these things. So this is outline view. Another way you could do this is like a web, or if this is a flow chart. I actually used lucid.com. I will provide links to this. It's actually a really easy site to use. You don't have to do this. You don't have to make it color-coded. It's a little fuzzy just because I embedded this picture into my Prezi. But if I go to the actual website, here's what it looks like. And you can actually see, here's my main task. Everything that I actually had in my outline is listed here in the flow chart. Once again, you do not have to color code this. However, present the task analysis in a way that as I'm going through your document, I can actually identify the different tasks and subtasks, skills, sub-skills for your thematic unit. Once again, in class, if this is something you're interested in using, you don't have to, but if you want to, I'll provide the information in class on how to get here, how to sign up. It's actually pretty easy. I just learned this on my own in 10 minutes during a training one day. It's a lot of clicking and dragging and double clicking. I think you'd really like it. So task analysis, and like I said, it's probably the hardest part of this entire document because it really does make you think about what it is you're teaching and break it down in different parts. After you do your task analysis, the last part is your context for instruction. So in other words, what resources do you plan to use? What is your schedule going to be like? What do you have available to use? What delivery methods will you use? What does your classroom look like? Why is the instruction that you chose the best option? So this example here, you can see she listed all of her resources, her delivery methods, and this is where she included, it's going to be taught, says this unit will be taught in 13 different 60-minute class periods. I would have liked a little bit more about her schedule, but the rest of it looks okay. The context for instruction is just a way for you to analyze what you have, what you don't have, what you need, what you want. I hope you're realizing with this analysis phase, it's just a way for you to look at everything, to analyze what it is you're wanting to teach, who you're going to be teaching, what you need to be teaching, what the end result should be. And something about the analysis phase, at the end of this entire project, this was the phase that teachers felt was the most beneficial. And this is the phase when I've asked teachers at the end of the course, what is something you're going to take from this class and apply in your actual class? Because I understand going through this ADDIE model is not going to be realistic for every unit, every lesson that you ever teach. However, the analysis phase was the part that teachers found was the most beneficial. They said, every year I need to start analyzing my students so I really know who they are and analyze what it is I'm supposed to be teaching. So we've talked about the analysis phase. You can go back and watch this video as many times as you need. I hope you have questions. Bring those questions to class on Tuesday and we will answer them. We will help you through this document. You will have lots of time in class to work on your analysis document. So come prepared to work on writing your learning goal, work on that needs analysis, your learner analysis. I'd even recommend taking the time to work on your task analysis because, like I said, that tends to be the hardest part of this entire document, and then your context for instruction. All right, I will see you in class on Tuesday.